Before we dive into the list, we need a proper hook, because what we're about to unfold goes against one of the oldest assumptions in gardening and survival history. For thousands of years, sunlight has been treated as the ultimate gatekeeper of food production. Civilizations mapped entire farming calendars around the sun's arc. Military engineers designed wartime gardens in courtyards that faced east for a reason. And suburban growers today still chase that perfect 6-hour sun window like it's a rare relic. But here's the truth. Most growers don't realize. The world is full of food crops that evolved under canopies, cliffsides, cloud belts, and dense forests, plants that never needed full sun to begin with. They thrived in the margins. They grew in the shadows. They kept communities alive during shortages, wars, migrations, and harsh climates. So, today's guide flips the bright light myth on its head. If your balcony barely gets morning light, if your backyard is squeezed between buildings, if you're growing in a basement hydroponic setup, or if you're preparing for a future where reliable sunlight isn't guaranteed, then this episode might be one of the most practical resources you'll ever keep in your toolkit. And unlike trend-based gardening hacks, the knowledge here is rooted in centuries of real-world survival, agricultural adaptation, and natural plant evolution. Let's get into the 10 vegetables that truly perform where the sun barely reaches, and how you can put each of them to work starting today. Lettuce proves that low light doesn't mean slow growth. Leaf lettuces evolved to grow fast under canopy shade, which means they actually become more tender and less bitter with fewer hours of sun. In shaded zones or indoor hydro setups, you can grow varieties like butterhead or looseleaf using just indirect light. A practical example is setting up a simple shelf system near a north-facing window. Lettuce will still form full heads. And unlike fruiting crops, you don't need intense energy output, so the plant never struggles. Spinach becomes richer and sweeter when grown in the shade. Spinach naturally bolts in bright heat, which makes shaded conditions its ideal environment. The cooler the setting, the broader and tastier the leaves. Historically, regions like Northern Europe relied on shade-grown spinach in spring and fall when sunlight was weak. In a modern application, you can grow spinach perfectly in a shaded courtyard or beneath a mesh tarp that blocks 50% of overhead sun. As long as the soil stays moist, spinach will thrive. Kale thrives under the canopy like a woodland survivor. Kale belongs to a lineage of hardy brassicas that withstood cold, damp climates for centuries. Certain varieties, such as Siberian or Red Russian, grow powerfully even when receiving only 2 to 3 hours of light. In a shaded garden, plant kale along the edges where larger crops or structures block sunlight. In hydroponics, lower-intensity LEDs still produce full leaves. This makes kale a dependable survival crop for low-light conditions. Swiss chard grows vigorously, even where shadows dominate. You know, Swiss chard is famous for tolerating almost any condition, and low light is certainly no exception. In medieval monasteries with enclosed courtyards, chard became a staple exactly because it grew reliably regardless of the sun's angle. And today you can grow chard under tree cover or on the dim side of a greenhouse. It continues to produce cut-and-come-again harvests even when other greens stall out. Arugula delivers strong flavour without strong sunlight. Actually, arugula's sharp, peppery profile deepens when grown in partial shade. Too much light, on the other hand, can really wash out its flavour. For people growing indoors, arugula is ideal because it can be harvested in as little as 3 weeks. One simple method is to grow it in shallow trays near indirect light, trimming outer leaves weekly. This makes it one of the most efficient low-light greens available. Beets handle low light by prioritizing leafy growth. Beets technically prefer sun, but when light is limited, they adapt by growing larger leaves, even if the bulbs stay modest. Historically, during periods of food scarcity, people used beet greens more than the roots themselves. You can replicate that today. Grow beets in shaded soil or low-light hydro. Then harvest the greens repeatedly for cooking. You still get nutritious food even if root size is reduced. Carrots, you see, tolerate shade and produce tender, sweeter roots. Now, carrots grown in shade don't grow fast, but they grow well. Shade keeps the soil cooler, preventing cracking and bitterness. A practical approach, really, is to plant carrots along the shaded side of a fence line or building. They'll still form proper roots as long as the soil is loose and moist. In blackout-prone regions, this reliability has long made carrots a go-to crop. Green onions, well, they are nearly unstoppable in low light. Green onions are among the most forgiving crops in the world. In history, they were grown inside homes, on windowsills, and even in underground storage cellars. They don't need direct sun to thrive. Cut them and they regrow, making them perfect for kitchens with dim windows. In hydroponics, a simple jar and nutrient method is enough to keep them producing indefinitely. Cabbage holds its structure even in deep shade. Cabbage has always been a favourite in cold, cloudy regions for a reason. It forms heads slowly but consistently, even under dim skies. Grow it where it receives morning light and afternoon shade, or indoors with moderate LED intensity. While growth may take longer, the plant remains compact and dependable. Peas may surprise you by flourishing in low light. Climbing peas evolved in cooler, cloudier regions, making them far more shade-tolerant than most growers assume. They'll still produce pods in filtered light. If you train them along a shaded wall or trellis, they'll reward you with tender early spring growth when other crops lag behind. In the end, low-light gardening isn't a limitation. It's an opportunity to understand plant history, plant biology, and natural adaptation. With these 10 crops, you can turn shaded patios, dim basements, or cloudy climates into steady food-producing spaces. Apply the techniques here, experiment with your environment, and build a level of resilience most growers overlook. For more deep-dive guides on resilient growing, smart hydro methods and historical survival knowledge, make sure you subscribe to Hydro Haven and share this video with others who want to grow smarter, not brighter.